Hi, fourth graders. So, today we're going to talk about area and perimeter. First, I want you to think, how are they different? And if you need to look back in your notes, you sure can. We did the notes last time with that talking little rectangle. Think through, how are they different in the words, with math, with numbers, as much as you can. How are they different from each other? So, think about area. Remember, it's that inside part, whereas perimeter is the outside lines, okay? So you want to think, how far along does it go for the perimeter? Okay, and area is everything inside that space. And when we're finding area, we remember length times width, okay? Length times width. And perimeter, we just add up all those outside parts. So let's look over our practice pages for today, and then I'm going to go over the homework. So, perimeter versus area. We see these things together a lot, but they're not the same thing. Otherwise, they'd be the same word. So they use the same kind of idea, though. Okay, the same object. Perimeter is the distance around it. So think like a robot walking around it, walk around the outside, okay? But then an area is how much is inside, like that gray part. How much gray is covering it, okay? Now, when we're finding perimeter, I talked about, don't even think of it this way. Just add all the sides. Just add all the sides, okay? Then, when we're doing area, do that length times that width. So we got to break it down step by step and think perimeter is add. When we talked about perimeter, it has that T in it. And some of us thought T kind of looks like a plus sign. So that might help us remember to add with perimeter. And then we know area is to multiply. Good. Oh, let me erase these first. Sorry, friends. Definitely thought that was gone. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I paused it while I erased it. I'm sorry about that. All right, so let's think through ours. We are given the lengths and the widths. That helps us figure out the perimeter and the area. So in my head, I'm picturing my rectangle, right? I know my length is 12 and my width is 9. So I know it's going to be longer than it is wide. Okay, so I'm picturing this in my head. And I know my length was 12 and my width was 9. Now that helps us, even though that's only two numbers, because we know opposite sides are congruent. They're the same length. So if we know the left, we know the right. And if we know the top, we know the bottom. Now, perimeter. I think through, I'm going to add all of these numbers in my head. Now, this is hard for me to type on the computer, so I'm just doing my work over on the side on a piece of paper. So I'm doing 9 plus 9 plus 12 plus 12. Or I could do 9 plus 9 and get 18. And do 12 plus 12 and get 24. And add them together to get 42. So that's part one of our perimeter. We always need our unit or our label. Now, because we're talking about centimeters, we can do that with our abbreviation CM. C means from the centi and M from the meters. Perimeter is just going to be that label. But area is when we are using that multiplication, and we are going to make that units squared. Remember how important that was last time, units squared? I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it today. So I remember area is length times width. So I'm going to do 12 times 9. And I'm doing my work over here. I know 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 1 is 9. And add one more would be 10. So, 108. So I have 108. And then I need my label of centimeters. But this time, because it's area, I know it's going to be my units squared. Or I'm going to do centimeter with a little 2 up above. That means centimeters squared. So 108 centimeters squared. Notice perimeter, we don't do that squared because all we did was add. We get that squared when we use multiplication. Okay? So you try this one, where you're figuring out the perimeter of a rectangle that is 14 feet long and 6 feet wide for the width. What do you get for perimeter? Well, pause the video while you work on that. Well, let's see. You should have gotten 14 plus 14 and then add 6 and 6 to get 40. So we knew our number part was 40. And then our label or our unit this time should have been feet. You might have remembered the abbreviation for feet being FT. Good. All right, so our perimeter is 40 feet. So what's our area then? Pause while you figure out the area. Think through that formula. You should have done 14 times 6 and gotten 84 feet squared. You should have done the FT and that little 2 up above. Feet squared. And you try the last one all on your own. Do the whole perimeter and then do the whole area. And I'll unpause the video when you are ready to see those answers. All right, well, you should have gotten your perimeter, again, of 40 inches this time. 40 inches. And your area should have been 99 inches squared with that little 2 up above or square inches. Awesome. All right, so just pause and see if you notice any patterns as we look across at the perimeter and then look at the area, specifically from perimeter to area on each one. What do you notice? I notice that the area is always bigger than the perimeter. The area number is always going to be bigger than the perimeter. And all of these have to have that squared unit. And these ones just have our unit. Good. All right, so you try this back page with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You pause the video while you figure out the perimeter and area for each of these. There are 2 tricky ones where they only give you one number though. Think through, why did they only give you one number? What do you know about that shape? Okay, same thing down here. All right, so pause the video while you work on those. All right, let's take a look at our answers. So we should have found that the perimeter for the first one was 20 meters and the area was 21 meters square or square meters. Then perimeter, we should have found 26 yards and 36 square yards or yards squared. 44 feet for this one, and then 121 feet squared for this one, for the area. In the middle, we should have had 26 millimeters and then 42 square millimeters. This one, 26 inches for the perimeter, and our area was 30 inches squared or square inches. Then we had 42 yards for our perimeter and 108 yards squared. For this last one, this first part should actually be 36. I don't know why it says 66, but it should be 36 centimeters. And then 81 centimeters squared for the area. 28 inches for the perimeter and 48 square inches for the area. And the last one was 32 meters for the perimeter and 55 metered squared or square meters for the area for that last rectangle. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to put our knowledge to kind of a practice, okay? A little bit of a challenge for it. Your homework is to use Miss Peabody's garden. You have to find the perimeter and area for each of the fruits and vegetables. But if you notice, she made every best use she could for her garden, right? There's no blank spaces and they kind of overlap some. when we were finding area of shapes, do you remember what we did? You tried to split it up into different rectangles. So like if I'm looking at carrots, I'm trying to see where could I draw a line to make a few rectangles. Maybe it's just one. Maybe I need 3. Well, I noticed I could draw one across here. Then I have 2 rectangles, nice and easy to help me going across and across. Radishes, you can do the same thing. You can go across here and then you have one nice big rectangle there and one down here. The tomato one is a little tricky. You might need more than 2. You can break it up into rectangles, okay? So I noticed I could do one down here and then over. Okay, and that almost makes a rectangle up here. But what do you notice? It got cut off by those 2 squares. But can we split this part into other rectangles? We could. We can do a line down here and then do a rectangle here. And then we have a square or a rectangle there. But now down here is kind of cut up silly. You could do this 2 ways. You could either come down here and do a little square or go across and do a big rectangle and then a smaller one. So think through that when you're doing your work, okay? And then remember, perimeter is counting by the sides, everywhere that's along the side of the shape. So think, is this on the side of my whole big area? No, it's on the inside part, right? It's not touching that black line. So careful when you're doing that. All right? So area and perimeter for each of these. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care.